2, 1. And welcome back to the Constitutionals Podcast. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the premier podcast for the website, cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Very rare midday record. I don't even know if I can hear myself. I believe I can. I don't know why I'm screaming. I noticed last week I was screaming because I was recording in the car. Listen, I did not get a chance to record an episode at a different venue that is not this car. For reasons that I will not get into, but I was asked to make a video for somebody at the very last minute. That took away time yesterday. And I could have done it at home. I could have in the office. Thing is, I was doing this video. Also, I didn't want to. You know, the neighbors were gone. It was quiet. I really wish I did, because now I excuse me, am sitting inside my car with the air on extremely high, and I gotta turn off the car. This is embarrassing. I gotta turn off the car. I gotta let the windows down. This is the loosest you will ever see this show. Also, I gotta do one thing. Hold on, quiet. Okay, I had to close the door because you know, with these cars, the push to starts, you gotta be able to, you gotta open the door and make sure everything's off and blah blah blah. I hope no bugs fly in. I did change. You know, I knew I was gonna record in the car today. That was the plan. And I had hoped that these lights are on. Maybe, okay. I just locked the car. This is the loosest episode is going to be because I got nothing going on. But I'd hoped that I could change the background by driving over to a different spot of the parking area where I park my car at work. I have done that because I didn't want to do the garage as a background. And now this is the darkest video in the history of the world, which means I have to do some background fixing. Also, very, very different thing now. I'm wearing glasses. This is a very rare midday lunchtime record. I'm wearing glasses at work, which I never do, which I try not to do. I don't want people knowing I have a weakness. I can't see. very much. Not blind as a mouse. I don't know if is that the word. We got some big things coming next week. Next week is HBO Max comes out, and I'm ready for it. I'm going to subscribe for at least a month to understand why it exists. To see they just set up deals with Xbox and PlayStation, so there will be apps on there. Not Roku yet. They're on virtually everything, with the exception of Roku and Amazon Fire Stick. So we will see it eventually on those. Most likely on Roku within the next couple of days. HBO Max, and then Peacock is out for people who fit the tiers of Comcast for some reason. I don't know why they're doing this strange rollout, but it'll be out in July for everybody else. But next week's episode of the Constitutionals and News Time's already planned. Will most likely be about HBO Max and the whole 24 hours that I've spent with it up until that point. So yeah, I've already got the title down and everything. I thought about it about 20 minutes ago when I was inside doing my real job, as I'm outside doing a job I don't get paid for. Hey, let's hop right into this. This first story. Hold on. The cables are tangled. This first story comes from the Wall Street Journal. Joe Rogan's podcast and his video podcast, they're going to be Spotify exclusives. So Spotify has been trying to up its ante, and in the podcasting world, it wants to be the one-stop shop for everything that you get on orally. AUIRR, orally. My iPad's LTE signal is searching, and this is gonna. Why is it? I mean, it's Verizon. It's gonna anyway. iPad's on Verizon. The phone is on Google Fi. You see where my money's going. This comes from the Wall Street Journal, written by Ann Steele. Spotify strikes podcast deal with Joe Rogan worth more than $100 million. 11 years worth of his show is going to be include the video and the audio. So that means the video podcast. So the audio. So essentially, what's going to happen with this deal is, in later this year, new episodes and old episodes, the entire podcast is going to be only available on Spotify. It's not going to be anywhere else. If you want to listen to it anywhere else, you're out of luck. So we'll see how that plays out. It's interesting because Rogan was staying away from Spotify because they weren't paying artists, they weren't paying people, enough. But this deal sure as heck is going to pay enough. It is one of the largest deals in podcast history, business history. Let's see what's going on here. So it's going to hit the service. Everything's going to hit the service on September 1st, and then become exclusive before the end of the year. Yeah, and they'll no longer be available on YouTube. Oh, there's a little tiny baby spider in here. Okay, no longer be available on YouTube. Let's see. The deal with Mr. Rogan is a multi-year licensing agreement for an amount of time that couldn't be learned. It will likely be worth more than $100 million based on milestones and performance metrics, according to the person familiar. Last year, this is not the first major deal that Spotify signed. Of course, they bought essentially Gimlet Media and Bill Simmons' The Ringer, but then they signed a 2-year deal worth at least $10 million with the true crime podcast My Favorite Murder, which is with EW Scripps Company, which may or may not be a parent company of the company I work at. It may or may not be. We don't know. It is. And that's with the Stitcher unit, which does the podcast, of course. I'm a 1 degree away from Earwolf. It's insane. Okay. And then also, Rogan is, of course, going to have his advertisers still coming along because he has the biggest podcast right now. 23andMe, Dollar Shave Club, ZipRecruiter, Manscaped, I assume, some type of CBD oil place he might team up with. It sounds like I'm crapping on him, but I'm not. I like Joe Rogan. I like him as a person. I like him as a comedian. Is that what he is? He was on news radio. That's the only reason I know who he is. From 25 years ago. This is excuse me. This is I like the move for podcasts in general, but the thing is, podcasts are unlike movies and unlike TV shows, in that these big deals are only good for these shows. Like if for the podcasting shows that take them, that are able to get them. Like if a TV show sells, it's going to be good for that brand or that genre as a whole. There are shows that have Game of Thrones, for instance. What did that do to the fantasy genre? That just eclipsed it and made it, made everybody want to do a fantasy thing. Or I guess I was gonna say Downton Abbey, but I can't picture another show that is Downton Abbey-esque, just as boring. But in terms of podcasting, it's deals like this or deals like the My Favorite Murder one. The one, I think, before Two Dope Queens ended, they set up a deal with Spotify to premiere exclusively on Spotify for a little bit, and then within the coming months it would appear on other platforms. And then Luminary, of course, you pay $8 a month and you can get Trevor Noah's podcast, Hannibal Buress's podcast, Lena Dunham's podcast. You're locking, and of course, Spotify is not a paywall, but locking away a podcast is different than locking away a TV show, because I can get Game of Thrones, and also I can get a lot of other great things, but great shows and great movies and specials and stuff. But if Spotify, that's a whole app that I gotta use, a whole different app that someone has to use in order to listen to this podcast. I don't listen to it because I don't listen to it. I just don't listen to it. No reason. I don't listen to it, but Spotify is trying to make itself the ultimate player in not just podcasting, but in the way and how you consume. I don't want to sound like a YouTuber, but in how you take in your audio stuff. Like I said earlier, orally. This good deal for him, not good for the podcasting industry as a whole. It's like when especially since podcasting is so easy to do. Like I'm a guy with a phone and a Zoom video recorder and an iPad, headphones, and it's all connected, and that's how this is working as a podcast. Literally anybody can do it. You can just do it with your phone. You can just put your phone down and go, I'm going to press record, download Anchor for free, and it's going to do 30 minutes, and there's your podcast. Put it out, put in, little segments and ads and stuff, and then that's it. Whereas TV and movies, it's a higher bar of entry. Same thing, so it's, just because Conan and Joe Rogan and My Favorite Murder, just because they can have these advertisers and make, a lot of money per season or per episode or whatever, doesn't mean that everybody is going to be able to do that. There are 100,000, plus podcasts. It doesn't. It's just insane for a deal like this to happen, and for everybody to expect that to be them, because podcasts don't make money, and that's just case in point. You can hear people on Earwolf talk about it, joke about it a lot. You can, unless you're Adam Carolla, not Seth Rogen, Joe Rogan. Are Seth Rogen and Joe Rogan related? They're both white. They both smoke weed. So there we go. There's my 2 cents on the whole deal. Good for Rogan, not good for the business as a whole. And also, stay out of podcasts, people. Leave it to the pros. Oh, what sucks is I didn't want to really talk about this, but ABC canceled a crap ton. Not a crap ton. They usually cancel a lot of shows. But this year, especially with the coronavirus coming around, you might not be able to get to greenlight a pilot. And if you do greenlight a pilot, then it's going to be, you have to put a commitment on the pilot. And then by that point, you might as well pay for, 8 episodes, a whole season, 10 episodes, 13, whatever. So usually ABC cancels a lot of shows around this time. So this, obviously, coronavirus pilot season, you might want to, if you can't greenlight a pilot, if you can't get to a pilot, you might want to just keep the shows you have. And so a lot of shows were kept, The Rookie, Stumptown, I believe. I could look this up. I have internet at the tip of my fingers. At the tip of my fingers, I have the internet. So this comes from TV Line. Shows that were canceled include a show called, I'll get to the comedies in a second, but there's a show, I just heard this thing clip. I don't know what's going on. Hold on. Just heard a clip. All right, cool. Just making sure that this thing did not cut out on me. I did replace the batteries. It died when I was trying to record something for News Time a couple of days ago. Anyway, Emergence, which was led by Allison Tolman and Donald Faison and what is his name? Clancy Brown, who voices Mr. Krabs, and that was my Mr. Krabs. Anyway, okay, so Emergence was canceled. It was an NBC show that got moved over to ABC before it aired. It was a good show. It was a show about a girl who appears on Alison Tolman. She's a cop, I believe, in this town, who appears and she doesn't remember her life or anything, and then eventually, slowly, like within the first episode, you find she's not of this world, and it's a really good show to be on a broadcast. Pretty dark too, but a nice watch. 13 episodes in that first season. I was admittedly behind, and it should not have been canceled. I enjoyed that, even though a lot of people probably weren't watching it. But Single Parents, bless this mess, and Schooled, the spinoff to Goldberg's, was canceled. Schooled aired its season finale, which is now its series finale, on May 13th, and it ran for 34 episodes. It was a spinoff that was set in the 90s, and Schooled had a heck of an existence. It aired as a backdoor pilot on the Goldbergs about 3 years ago, and in that backdoor pilot was it was under the guise of the Goldbergs, of course, in the middle of the season, and it had Nia Long as Tim Meadows was the lead character in both. Was a lead character in both versions of the show, but in the backdoor pilot, Tim Meadows, he was going to become the principal in the 90s of the school where the Goldbergs went, and it was supposed to the show was supposed to follow Nia Long, Tim Meadows, Brian Callen, who was the gym coach, and then Nia Long's daughter in the show, and her son. All right, so keep that in mind. Jump to a year later, the show has been retooled, renamed Schooled, instead of the Goldbergs, 90-something, I believe that was the name. And Lainey from the Goldbergs, which is AJ Michalka, she is now the lead actress in the show, even though Brian Callen and Tim Meadows are now not in the show. Are now the lead actors as well, but they're not, the main part. And then Nia Long's character, written out. The Nia Long's daughter character, written out. Nia Long's son character, written out. Except the daughter character appeared in like maybe 2-3 episodes, max. And she is no longer a part of the show, I don't believe. And so it became about Lainey, and it came about her in the middle of Goldbergs. She left and to go be famous, to make it in Hollywood. Then she came back in the 90s, and now she's teaching at the school. Anyway, I stopped watching the show because they started hinting at she was with Barry. This doesn't mean anything. Okay. Anyway, I didn't like the love dynamic they were doing. Bless This Mess was starring Dax Shepard and Lake Bell, as well as David Koechner, Lennon Parham, and just Pam Grier. Just a slew of funny side people who are now leading a show. It's sad. It's sad that the show's gone, but they got 2 great seasons. That show's very funny. Single Parents, which was produced by Elizabeth Merriweather, I believe, created by Elizabeth Merriweather, and starring Taran Killam and Brad Garrett and I can't remember everybody's name. Anyway, very funny show as well. Both got full seasons. It just sucks. It sucks that those shows were canceled, and a show like American Housewife is still on. I'm joking. American Housewife is a fine comedy. Speaking of things that are just being... Speaking of television shows. This comes from Engadget. Apple is reportedly buying older TV shows to take on Netflix and Amazon. So, the biggest thing in streaming, besides the idea that you can watch these new shows that are meant for streaming networks, is rewatching shows. Cheers is available to watch via streaming on, Hulu, Netflix, and CBS All Access, even though I believe it'll be on Viacom All Access, Viacom All Access at some point, just alone. Frasier too as well. It's so acquiring shows. Friends did massively well for Netflix, and Seinfeld did really well for Hulu. So it only stands to reason that other streaming networks would want to want to air acquired shows. So Apple TV Plus is apparently trying to do just that by buying shows. This comes from Engadget, but written by Rachel England, but it was reported by Bloomberg. Apple TV execs have been taking pitches from Hollywood studios about licensing older content for the streaming service, and have already bought some shows and movies. No word yet on what they are, however, or when they'll arrive. According to people familiar with the matter, Apple intends to remain focused on original shows, but plans to round out its offerings with this additional content to help attract new customers, since its initial approach has apparently not resulted in the numbers it originally hoped for. About 10 million people apparently are using Apple TV Plus, but only about half that figure actively use the service, writes Bloomberg. This goes back to what I was saying last week, where not every streaming service needs to exist. Apple should have just become a producer and started a production house. You know, they could have called the production house Apple TV Plus, and then they you team up with what Vice Vice isn't really who I should go for, but what Vice has done, they have their own network, which is ill-advised, but then they teamed up with HBO, and now they've teamed up with Showtime to air Vice. They also have productions at another network, at a oh god, I was gonna say Hulu, but that's wrong. Yeah, Hulu. They have a show on Hulu that comes out once a month on top of the news magazine show that comes out on Showtime once a week, on top of their daily news show that comes out 4 times a week. You can have ViacomCBS. They want to make CBS All Access the base of operations for their streaming plans, but then they also want to be able to say, you know what, Netflix is doing well on Cheers and on Hulu. Let's let them still have Cheers, and then we'll have Cheers as well, just in case somebody wants to watch Cheers on Viacom All Access. It doesn't make sense if half people are using Apple TV Plus. It's not the shows, because the morning show is the most glitzy thing that they have. The movies like The Banker, they have shows with Oprah. You have the Steven Spielberg Amazing Stories. Let's take away the critical analysis of these shows. It doesn't matter if they're good or bad, in quotes, both those. It just matters if there's an easy way to access it. And if people only have an iPhone, if they only have an iPad, then they're not. If they only have a MacBook Pro or a MacBook Air, they're not going to spend their time watching things on a small screen. I think it's proven that people don't watch things on small screens. And I'm getting on my high horse, but it only makes sense for them to be a producer. If you have cash reserves of $1 billion, and then you say we're going to allocate 20 million of that to television production, and I think this was like 2 years ago. 20 million. It was either 20 or 50. It was something that was paltry to their like $4 billion that they had in the bank. Then it doesn't make sense to start your own thing, and then the app is only available where only 10 million people can reach it. Because I only have Apple TV because it came with this freaking iPad. What happens? I've said this before. What happens in December when everybody's year runs up, or in November, because it came out in November? So what happens in November when everybody's years runs up and they don't want to pay $5 to watch season 2 of the morning show? Because no one does. Just because you have the capital doesn't mean you should act on it. Just team up with somebody. I know the game is we want the most money, but you could working with somebody also helps you. Dragon Ball Super, excuse me. Frieza joined everybody else. Goku and Vegeta and Gohan and Piccolo and Krillin and Master Roshi and Tien to, I feel like 17 and 18. he Frieza, I'll say they because I don't know what Frieza is. They joined the Z Fighters in order to help save the universe. And even though he did some evil stuff, they did some evil stuff. I don't know where I'm going with this through line, but there you go. You have it. He still saved the universe. All right. Let's move on. I'm pissed. Speaking of ViacomCBS, this is a great piece from the New York Times late last week. This was released. Yeah, May 17th. Nope, that was this week. Whatever, I read it this week, and I thought it was late last week. Written by John Coblin, very interesting piece. As cable TV fades, fearing the end of Comedy Central. So we know that ViacomCBS has had some growing pains, much like Disney Plus Disney and Fox when that acquisition happened. When Viacom and CBS came back together for, I think that's the second time. It might be second, not third. Second time. There were some consolidation of jobs, networks, and consolidation of networks as well. Viacom, before they teamed up with CBS again, they treated each network as its own, and they had like different presidents of networks. But now all the networks are together. MTV, VH1, Comedy Central, CMT, and BET. They all have one president, and that's how they're doing it. But Comedy Central is not what it used to be a couple years ago. Like when Broad City was on, and Inside Amy Schumer, and Key and Peele, and Nathan For You, when those shows were going, they were kind of in this renaissance of basic cable comedy television that showcased these people who were never stars. Alana and Abby were never stars before Broad City. Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key were never stars before Key and Peele. Amy Schumer never would have had Trainwreck without Stand Up and Inside Amy Schumer. But now, Comedy Central is on a tear of not having shows that really showcase talent, or they'll cancel shows immediately. But last year, they started bringing in great shows of years before. The other two, Southside Aquafina's show, which is Aquafina is Nora from Queens. Like, those were sensational shows, like just amazing shows. And in the last 6 months, comes from Coblin at the New York Times, many of Comedy Central's senior executives have been pushed out. In the last week of April, most of the network's talent and development team was let go too. Peter Principato, the chief executive of Artists First, a management company with clients like Aquafina and Jordan Peele, said the cuts struck him as misguided. That makes it feel like the end of Comedy Central. And that at any other point, like if somebody said this about a different network, I think that would be a little bit misguided and a little bit sensationalist. But coming in terms of a merger, this fits the bill. Bob Bakish, Robert Bakish, Bob Bakish, as he was known, he's the former boss of Viacom. He became the chief executive of the new ViacomCBS when the merger closed in December. He installed Chris McCarthy, the president of MTV, as the head of group of channels. And so those are the channels I told you about: Comedy Central, MTV, VH1, TV Land, CMT, not BET, TV Land instead of that. With Mr. McCarthy's arrival, the longtime Comedy Central president, Kent Alterman, was just ousted. Kent Alterman was the reason why, Jon Stewart's Daily Show, and Trevor Noah's Daily Show, and John Oliver, and Amy Schumer, and Alana, and Abby, and Dave Chappelle, a reason why those people were allowed to exist and explore on the network. Alterman was a rare cable executive who could make comedians laugh. He also endeared himself to the talent by championing the network's most influential series of recent years, Broad City, other unconventional shows. And then they say some good stuff about Kent. But in the recent months, the network has started to shift its focus away from scripted programs like Inside Amy Schumer and Broad City toward unscripted fare that was cheaper to produce, according to three people with knowledge on the strategy. Last month, ViacomCBS gutted Comedy Central's talent and development team, the division responsible for building programs around comics who showed the potential to become household names. Roughly 20 people of a team of 30 departed. Sarah Babineau, a champion of risky shows who had assumed many of Alterman's duties, will also leave the network. If we, that's like building, the perfect. Imagine The Last Dance just ended. Imagine building, the '96 Bulls and having Scotty and MJ and Kerr and Rodman. Imagine just having that entire team and then taking it away from Phil Jackson, which eventually they would. Eventually, what would happen? Take it away from Phil Jackson and then giving coaching duties to somebody who was a hockey coach. Imagine, it's the same thing, guys. You just you go up and down the ice field court. And that's pretty funny. I cracked myself up. But they're giving it. And now, reality shows easy to produce, yeah, but you can only do so much with them. These scripted shows have proven to do well for the network, but it's just bad. Let's see. Mr. McCarthy appears to be following a strategy that served him well at MTV. When he took over for the network in 2016, he mined its past to create its future with reboots of Jersey Shore, The Hills, and Total Request Live, the latter of which was canceled, I believe. At a glance at MTV's current schedule, it reveals marathons of Ridiculousness, Jersey Shore, and Catfish, the TV show. And it worked. During McCarthy's tenure, MTV's ratings went up. But that's just based on the nostalgia factor of the nostalgia factor of the not the past 20 years, not the past 30 years, not like Beavis and Butthead nostalgia factor, or Boobarella. Was that her name? Boobarella? No, not Boobarella. Oh God, what was that show? It was Pam Anderson's character. Anyway, not based on that, or Daria. It's based on people my age going, you remember The Hills from 2009? It's back. Despite the repeat-heavy schedule and the cuts to the development team, Mr. McCarthy said Comedy Central would embrace new content, particularly movies, animated projects, and unscripted shows. Then some malarkey about how they remain, blah, blah, blah. The changes at the network have come a bleak time for comedy in general. Stand-up comics, talent managers, and club owners are worried that the touring business, wiped out by the coronavirus pandemic, may never be the same. Making the situation more grim is what they see as a diminution of diminution. Is that the word? Okay, of a network that was once at the center of the comedy universe. Because and then let's take streaming back into the picture. Netflix is putting out a special, what seems like every 2 weeks now. HBO is barely putting out specials at this point. And special, and then also comedians are either. I saw Mark Norman put out his special on YouTube, and like his full special. Let's see who else. People are going to Jim Gaffigan's latest special, I believe, is on Amazon, and then people are also going to Amazon for the specials. So it's just it's and then they also had trouble. This is a section in this. They also had trouble filling a void with Stephen Colbert after he left Comedy Central 5 years ago for CBS. He's done stellar work for himself, but then they tried to fill that 11:30 slot after the Daily Show with Larry Wilmore, Jordan Klepper, and David Spade. None of those shows worked, and then they pushed Trevor Noah's show to 45 minutes to see if that can be the thing to save that time slot. The other two is a show starring Drew Tarver and I forgot the woman's name. But it's a very funny show, and yet it's been off the air for about a year and some change now, I believe. But it has low ratings, and Comedy Central's not going to put the money behind that. And then they made a deal with HBO Max that's reported at $500 million to put South Park on HBO Max. And then that's where what gets back to the top of the conversation about surrounding this is that they could make up the money just by selling the rights to shows, to shows for other streaming networks. On Hulu alone, you have Inside Amy Schumer, Key and Peele, Nathan For You, and Broad City. Those shows you can only find on Hulu. But what happens when the deal needs to be re-upped? And surely they don't want to. I mean, CBS All Access is doing fine and dandy. People, it's a decent streaming platform, and it offers decent shows. But no one's going to go to CBS All Access to watch Broad City. They want to find it either on Netflix or they want to find it on Hulu. I don't think that it would do well outside of those two. Let's see. Okay. Megan Hooper White, formerly an executive at A&E Networks, has been put in charge of a team to make original films for the cable networks controlled by Mr. McCarthy. So we'll see more MTV movies. I haven't seen it. When's the last time MTV produced a movie? I would like to know that. ViacomCBS will also bring aboard executives with a comedy background to work across those networks and lure established comedy stars to Comedy Central, according to a person briefed on the company's plans. So we've got movies coming, we've got unscripted topical shows, and then we've got animated programs. If the animated programs are anything like Legends of Chamberlain Heights, don't do them. Nobody wants to watch that stuff. I wouldn't. I know that I think that during the pandemic is going to show what, not only what is necessary in your life and what's necessary around the world, but in terms of television and the entertainment industry, the pandemic is going to show what shows and what movies, what media is necessary. And obviously, podcasts necessary, movies necessary, video games, TV shows. But within those, if everybody starts a podcast during this pandemic, then we have to, and it starts a YouTube channel. If they start making music and putting it on SoundCloud, you have to sift through the crap more than you would have to do for if there wasn't a pandemic. Everybody can make a YouTube video. It just, if people stick with the schedule, stuff like that, and who does it right, and who does it well, or who does it enough to get noticed. Some good news. John Krasinski just sold the rights to the free YouTube show that he was making during a pandemic when people wanted, good news, to not hear about the other crap. And he sold it to ViacomCBS for an untold amount of money, but I guarantee it was in the millions. And ViacomCBS, it's gonna air on Viacom's platforms, and it's not gonna be on YouTube. This show, and John Krasinski is not gonna host anymore. They're gonna find somebody else to host. But I understand why he did it. It might have been too much work for him to do at a time when he should be with his family and not working or worrying about the Jack Reacher show. Or Jack Ryan show? What is this show called? Jack Reacher or Jack Ryan? Or John Ryan? I've seen 3 episodes. 4. No, 6. I've seen 6. I'm not done with the first season yet, though. It's well enough. Wendell Pierce is in it. It's good enough. But I understand that, that stuff might take precedent over this thing that he probably only set up a camera for in his house, and now it's a whole big production. But you lose out on what makes the show special by selling it. If I made a deal like that, then that would be, A, I'm nobody, but B, that would be, a boon because it's something I've been working towards. But if he does that, then and he did it in a vein of wanting to be a good person, then what's the point of having done it in the first place? So what I'm saying is, John Krasinski, you done effed up. Title. Listen, I gotta get back to work. So if you like what you heard here, head on over to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where there are so many great things. I have an interview that is truly sitting on my laptop, and I need to put it out. So that'll be out next week, hopefully. I just didn't have time this week. I got caught up in work and life. You can, if you want to see a video version of this show, head over to youtube.com/C+comedy to see me sitting in my car and sweating. It's hot. It's 88 degrees tomorrow. It said it was going to rain today. It did not. Jeez. Sorry, it's like bird poop or something, or a bug. It looks like a dead bug on my windshield. You can for also on youtube.com/C+comedy is our premiere show News Time, which is a news show that's like the Daily Show except way less funny. Is this empty? Does this look empty to you? It doesn't smell empty. It's definitely empty. It's one story and explore it and see if it's good. The end. This week's episode was about Scooby-Doo, and then it morphed into what movie theaters are doing during and after the pandemic. So definitely check it out. I made a Last Dance cold open about Scooby-Doo, and I thought it was very funny. So definitely check it out. And then you can follow us on Twitter at @CPlusComedy, Twitter and Instagram at @CPlusComedy. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ChadBlackWhite. Like us on Facebook. Rate, review, subscribe to this show wherever you get your podcasts. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Radio Public, the others. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you. You're the best. I love you.